G'day legends, it's Mark here from North Oz, and today marks the 5-month anniversary of me owning my new 79 series Landcruiser. So I thought, what better way to celebrate it than to go through 10 things I wish I knew about the 70 series Landcruiser before I bought it. And it's going to be a great one, so stick around, let's get straight into it. So the first thing that I wish I knew before I purchased my 79 series Landcruiser, but all these apply to 70 series in general, was the fuel economy. Now everyone kind of said in the forums, and you're speaking to them, oh, you're not going to get the same fuel economy as you do out of your Hiluxes and your Prados. But I actually found the opposite. I get actually the same, if not sometimes a little bit better. At the pump, it's been performing at 10.5 liters per 100 kilometers. I get 9 to 950 kilometers out of the tank before the light comes on. And when the light comes on, as you guys know, who own 70 series, you get about another 20 or 30 liters past that light. So the light does come on pretty early. So I have been very impressed. I've done about 4,000 kilometers so far, and I've only had to fill up a few times, so I can't really complain. So if that's something that you thought, oh, you know what, I'm not gonna upgrade, or I'm not going to try a different vehicle. I'm not sure if it's an upgrade for some people, but for me it was. If you didn't want to try this vehicle and you're put off by it because of the fuel economy, then don't even worry about it, because if you drive, I guess, normal and you don't have a modified vehicle, so it's not super heavily modified with 35 inch tires and 6-inch lifts and all that sort of stuff, and you're not carrying huge amounts of weight, then expect to get roughly the same as the Hilux and Prado competitors. Now, as we move to the interior, and we're going to be jumping in and out of the vehicle today, love the sound of those door handles, by the way. Hear this. Oh, I love the sound of that. Good quality, I love it. So in the interior, it's going to get a little bit dark, guys. In the interior, it's actually not as loud as everyone says it is in here. Yes, there is not a lot of sound deadening. We'll talk about that later, but in another video probably. But yeah, the sound in here is not terrible. If you're going 100 kilometers an hour, yeah, you got to talk a little bit louder to hear the person next to you, but it's not as bad as everyone says it is. I think a lot of people get pretty used to the new vehicles where they have a lot of sound deadening, but if you're used to older vehicles and older trucks like me, this is absolutely nothing new. Now, the third thing is to do with the engine and how it performs. I love the engine. I've said this on a couple of videos already that I absolutely love the way it performs. However, it is very, very slow. And yes, some of that is limited by the transmission. The first gear is really, really short. And again, we'll talk about that later, but it has got absolutely no grunt at all. The torque band, the power band is really, really narrow, and the only fix for that is a tune, and then once you start tuning, you got to do more stuff. So it's just a never-ending landslide from there. So yes, this thing is bitterly slow. 0 to 100 is done in yes. There is absolutely no way that I have the patience to even test how long this will go 0 to 100. But I will say, it does take a little bit of time to get used to driving. There is kind of like a certain way to drive these vehicles, as I've said before. So if you're used to just kind of rowing through the gears, like in a petrol hatchback, for example, it's not the same. It does take a little bit of different type of driving to really use the torque early on in the transmission and early on in the gears, and you guys will find that out if you take these for a drive, but more so if you start owning it for a longer period of time. So when I first started driving this, it was very different to my previous vehicles, coming from manual performance vehicles, for example. It took a little bit of getting used to, but I must say that I haven't found it to be an issue so much in the last maybe 1,000 kilometers, now that I'm starting to get used to using the power and when the power is available in the rev range. So the fourth thing is pretty predictable. Unfortunately, I have fallen into the trap of getting cruiser brain, and I've got parts and bits lying around for all sorts of projects that I've got going into the Landcruiser. I got so much lying around that I'm just kind of waiting for it all to fall into place a little bit for some pieces, and that's exactly that. There are so many pieces available, so many aftermarket parts available for these vehicles. I've done lots of little bits and pieces. Looking at the vehicle, you probably don't even know that I've done as much as I have. Everything from just like even the bar work is like pretty cheap and readily available. You got like your snorkels and stuff, and all this stuff is always readily available from manufacturers and suppliers. I've got a full interior in here as well from Department of the Interior. So there's just so many things things that you can buy for these vehicles, and you got to be really careful not to get stuck into the whole buy. But I must say, having the availability is just nice, coming from vehicles where they just haven't had that. Even installing things like roof racks, and that is difficult. Having the ease of install has been so appreciated on this vehicle. Coming in at number 5, and I am going to overlay a little bit of an exhaust clip for you guys. And the exhaust is really quiet, and unfortunately there's not much you can do about it for this vehicle unless you get rid of the DPF, but then there's legal problems with that, so you don't want to be doing that. So I mean, in terms of, is it a problem? You can do side exit exhaust, but unfortunately a lot of the ones that I've found that are pre-made are illegal, so because they come out the wrong side of the vehicle. So there's really not a lot that you can do to make these Landcruisers sound that much better if you have a newer one. If you have an older one, absolutely go for it. You can, if it doesn't have a DPF in it, you can make these things sound awesome, but unfortunately you can't really do much about it for these new Landcruisers. The DPF in there really restricts how loud it is. The DPF sits pretty far back, and as well, even if you remove the muffler in the rear of this, it's still going to be illegal anyway. And if you put a high flow muffler in there, it's not going to sound much better, unfortunately. So just so you guys know, the exhaust in these do not sound great, and there's really not much of an answer I have for you on that. Coming in at number 6 is something that I have explained before for those of you who have been subscribed for a while. If you haven't subscribed yet, guys, please go ahead and do so. I've got more Landcruiser content and camping videos coming out once this rain finally stops, hopefully at some point, up here in Cairns. So I'm going to show you guys, I've shown you this before for those of you who've been around a while, and it is about the seals on the interior and on these doors. So hear this sound again. Oh, love the sound of those door handles. I'm going to keep doing that too, guys, because I just love it. So the way that these doors shut, like that had a little bit of force behind it, probably could have given a little bit more, but the point is that these doors do not shut at all. So when I take another door out, and then I shut this one again with the same force, as you can see, it shuts pretty easily. And that's because you've got to give that one a good slam. Then on the last door, that's because the interior of these, they seal really well. So whether you're talking about dust or water, I haven't taken this through water, done a little bit of dust work so far, and have had absolutely no issues. But when I do my Cape trip again and my lap of Australia in this thing, I will definitely be testing out those seals around the water, I would say. So that gives you a little bit of an idea that the seals on this thing is something that I really was not expecting to be a really good feature. So coming in at number 7 is going to be a little bit of a controversial one, and it is a fact that you do not need to modify your 79 series Landcruiser to be able to enjoy it. I have, over the last few months, yes, been steadily increasing the amount of things I've been doing to the 79, and these are things that to suit me. As you guys know who have been following me on the channel, I have been doing a custom tray and canopy setup. I haven't been doing it. I've hired Pete from PSC Fabrications to do it for me, but we sat down, we designed a few little things, and so I do have that going on. I got a bit of bar work, a snorkel, but we're not talking about major things. I think a big misconception, this is the main point, is that a big misconception of people going out and buying these vehicles is thinking that you need to spend $30,000 to make these usable. And it's an argument that I hear all the time. I'm pretty active on a lot of the forums, and it's what a lot of people have been saying, what a lot of people say, especially people that don't spend a lot of time with these vehicles from the factory, like that are stock. So one thing that I wanted to say to you guys is that if you wanted to go out and purchase this vehicle, you don't have to think, oh, I need to have $30,000 or $40,000 saved up to be able to make it usable. And I've taken this thing off-road completely stock. I've made videos of that if you want to have a look at that too, and I find it perfectly fine. The way that it handles on and off the road is around as comparable as a Hilux. You're buying these vehicles for a different reason anyway. So just so you guys know, if you want to modify your vehicles, that's your choice, go for it. I'm doing the same thing. But if you don't want to modify it and you just want to take your time and maybe save up a bit of money and really think about what you want to spend the money on, then I recommend, doing that, because it means that you don't have to think, oh, I need to spend all this money on the 70 series to make it usable, because that is just not true. It's actually very capable even in stock form. So coming in at number 8 involves us going back into the interior, and it's a bit of a hop, skip, and a jump to get in here, because it's one of the things that this vehicle does sit quite high up. When you are in the interior though, the seats are actually really comfortable. Now, I've only done about 2 to 3 hours of driving at one time in this, and from that, my back has held up a lot better than a lot of the other cars like the Hilux and the Prado, which surprised me, because again, it was one of those things where people said, oh, be prepared to swap out the seats. You need to buy, $6,000-$7,000 seats to be able to actually drive more than an hour. But I found these fine, and I might upgrade these at some point, like I'll probably do, with a lot of things in this vehicle. But, if you are worried about things not being comfortable, these seats are more comfortable than the Hilux and Prado that I've owned. So I had a 2023 Hilux and I had a 2021 Prado, and these seats are more comfortable. I think it has a lot to do with the way that the seat is orientated, and the fact that you sit more upright as opposed to back. So I think that puts different pressures, in my opinion anyway. Someone out there who is a bit more scientific than me, it puts pressures in different parts of the body when you are sitting down in this position more upright. I think it's better for posture, in my opinion. So I think that, in my opinion, these seats are a lot more comfortable than the Hilux and Prados, and I think that's kind of a big revelation, because a lot of people, like I said, say that you need to swap these out. And these are the vinyl ones, but so they do get a little bit hot if they have direct sun on them, but toughen up. Put a towel over it if you're really that concerned about it, or just have your windscreen shade up. But for me, it's not that big of a deal, and the vinyl is super easy to clean, so I can't complain about that. But yeah, these seats, super comfortable. I really can't complain. So coming in at number 9, and we're getting close to the end, but stick around, because I do have a bonus one for you after number 10. Little surprise for some of you guys out there that stuck around this long. But at number 9, there's just not a lot of plastic on these vehicles, and that to me is blowing my mind, because all the new cars that are coming out now, my Hilux had a lot of plastic on it, and I haven't really spoken much about this, but one of the reasons why I got rid of the Hilux in the end, after only owning it for about a year, was because of the amount of plastic that was on it, and I ended up breaking quite a lot of it. Showing up a few more things. So this here is the first one. I thought that the gap on this over fender was a little bit too much, and that's not supposed to do that. When I was doing my off-roading and stuff, and it just wasn't as tough as I thought it was going to be in the end. But these 79 series they got metal everywhere. There's really not much plastic on it. Really, the only plastic is kind of found on the grill there, and you got some of the plastic around there. So that's kind of the only plastic that's on this entire thing. So I must say that I've been pretty impressed with the fact that there's a lot of metal on here, and to me that just screams build quality, but it also is durability. So is it by design, or is it the fact that they just kept the exact same design from 1980 where they can't be bothered to upgrade to plastics and that? But either way, I'm not complaining, because the metal is very much appreciated. Now, coming in at number 10 has to do with that rear wheel right there, and you can kind of see it from this angle, but I'll put up a better picture on the screen for you guys so you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. And it's to do with the fact that that axle sits just behind the back of the dual cab. Now, the single cabs has got pretty much all this room, pretty much from back here to here, where you have tray space almost. It's a lot more than what it is on the dual cab. So if you are going to be loading up your vehicle with, say, a really heavy canopy, for example, and you don't want to be spending money on a chassis extension, which would push those wheels back even further, however much you want. If you don't want to be stuffing around with all that stuff and you can get by with a single cab, then I recommend going with a single cab, because you're going to be able to get a lot more weight between where the cab is and where the rear axle is, because you want to make sure that you got as much weight as possible between those axles. So unfortunately for me, I am going to be having, and this is something that you guys pointed out as well, which I do agree with, is the fact that I am going to be having a bit of load behind those rear axles. And again, I can only just see how it goes. You know, Pete did say from PSC Fabrications, as making my tray and canopy, he made the tray and canopy shorter than the factory tray. So it is going to be a little bit shorter than the factory size of the 79 anyway. So that will help things out as well. But only time will tell to see how it goes. And, you know, if I'm finding it is a bit of an issue, then I will be, obviously I'll have to do something about it, whether it's changing up the design of the canopy and the way that everything's loaded up, to even going to the extremes of doing a chassis extension. But again, not jumping to conclusions. These are things that everyone says you need to do, and I'm sure that it'll be fine with what I have planned anyway. Just doing a little bit more smart, you know, loading up with where I put the weight is probably going to be easier than chopping the car in half and having to push things out and re-welding and re-engineering and all that nonsense. So with those 10 out of the way, let's move on to our bonus reason why, and the bonus thing that I wish I knew before I got my 79 series Landcruiser. Now, coming in at number 11 to finish things off is something that not a lot of people will appreciate, but I do, and you might as well. It is the fact that this has a traditional rain gutter. So that means a lot for people who have spent a lot of time working on vehicles, because it means you don't have to drill holes in the roof skin like you do on the Hilux to get the roof rack on and other things. You can have just a basic sandwich style, so sandwich plate style roof rack or bar system, whatever it is that you want to do if you want to be carrying things on the roof. And that is a lot less stuffing around than having to remove the entire interior roof out and then drilling holes through the roof and then having to Sikaflex everything up. It's messy, so you don't want to be doing that. And the good thing about the 79 series and the 70 series Landcruiser is it has these awesome rain gutters that run all the way along it, and it makes modifying the vehicle a lot easier, and just adding accessories is just awesome. Well, there you go, guys. There are 10 things, which ended up being 11 things. So I'd like to give you guys a little bit more value for your time here on North Oz. But yeah, ultimately, guys, if I knew those 11 things while I had my vehicle on order, and also like before I purchased it, I would have felt a lot better about my purchase. Because, you know, it's what happens, isn't it? Like, you order the vehicle, you buy the vehicle, and you start overthinking, like, oh, is this going to be a problem? Is this going to be a problem? Because you start doing your research. And, you know, a lot of those things that I addressed today, and I have more of these. If you guys want me to make another video where I'm talking about another 10 things where, you know, they're not really a big deal, or, you know, maybe people just aren't talking about these kind of topics, then let me know, because I do have a whole nother list there ready to roll. But yeah, ultimately, guys, people over exaggerate a lot, in my opinion, and they talk a lot on the forums, and, you know, people try to make a big deal about little things. And like, for me, it's things like the seats, it's things like, you know, even like, I'll give you an example as well, like with the snorkel. You know, that to me was kind of a big deal, because I really didn't like the way that the snorkel was designed. And a lot of people just swap out snorkels, and they didn't talk about that. They don't talk about the poor design. So that's just my opinion. That's just how, you know, I kind of do things on here. I kind of try to use a common sense approach. And yeah, and that's what you guys do at home anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you buy these vehicles and you won't really know what you like and dislike about it until you get it home and you start driving it and you start taking it on trips. So try to use a common sense approach on here, and try not to make anything out to be, you know, try not to make mountains out of molehills, as they say. So that is today's video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, and if you want to spend a little bit more time with me on these videos, go ahead and subscribe, comment. What is there something else that I'm missing? If you guys own 70 series out there, or you want me to cover something, make sure you chuck that in the comment section, and I'm more than happy to make another one of these kind of informative sort of videos, because I love doing this sort of stuff just as much as installing and going camping anyway. So with that, all that said and done, guys, I'm going to leave it there. See you very shortly. In the next video, we've got the tray and canopy that is almost ready to roll on here as well. So I'm looking forward to, again, using a bit of a common sense approach to setting that out and getting all that done. So, like I said, guys, thank you for watching. Please click that subscribe button and like the video, and I'll see you very shortly in the next one. Take care.